sing the glory of Dharma. May I perfect the quality of the levels and paths, and thus swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Let's do the, sorry, let's do the 4 contemplations, please, Boone. Can you get them? I'll just start. I'm sure you've all got them. We should actually all know them off by heart, but let's just start. Okay, here we go. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jendam je dewatang dewe jutang dempa jujik, dungal tang dungal chichu tang trawa jutik, dungal mepe dewa tampatang minrawa jutik, nearing chaktang ni tang trawe tang nong chimpola nipa jutik. So, today we're going on with the dreams. I hope, Gail, you managed to watch so you know the beginning good. We're doing dreams, the sleep state, and all possibilities, part 2. Now, you know what my problem is? That I've got so much material from all the years, and then when I'm teaching off a particular teaching that I'm doing, which is probably more than enough for the subject, then I know there are about 100 other references and things on that particular subject, and it really upsets me because somehow I've just always got to give you everything that I possibly know. And it's probably the most ridiculous thing in the world because I listen to these great masters and they give you half a subject here and half a subject, and a little bit of a summary here, and they don't worry about it. They just leave you, and then I go and read up on whatever they didn't do. But I don't like doing that for you. I like to give you the whole array of subjects. So just shut me up when you've had enough, okay? Because when I look at the subject of dreams, it's a really fascinating subject. Even the psychology of dreams is a fascinating subject. It really is. And please butt in with your dreams with pleasure. But I want to read you a beautiful story called The Dragon King's Son. Now, this is what happened. There was an old man named Chu. He was well over 60. Just note that in those days, well over 60 was an old man. Okay, so let's not talk about ourselves, you know. Oh, sorry. Just ask me, Gail, with pleasure.
Sorry, when I was watching the first part,
Sure.
and I was away in the game park, so I couldn't actually ask you. But what if you don't remember your dreams?
Yeah, okay, that's a very important thing, and we'll talk about that because the thing, it's like everything. You've got to train your mind. You've got to go to sleep in a different way, sleep not unconsciously, and wake up. That's what we've got to tell ourselves to do, but not only in the dream state, in everything, all the 6 bardos. We've got to start waking up. I'm so desperate to wake everybody up. I can't begin to tell you. So I'll give you all the techniques of waking up. But if you don't remember your dreams, you've got to look at the fact that maybe there's a bit of a blockage, you know, that you don't enter the sleep state with awareness. And that's the most important thing of everything. Doesn't matter what you dream or how you dream, you need to enter that dream state with full awareness when you go to sleep. And most of us will watch television and then zoom off to sleep, you know, and bring all the stuff from the television into our minds. And it's ridiculous because we should always do, no matter what the time is, even if I come home at 1 o'clock in the morning, I always do my dream yoga practice before I go to sleep. And that helps to wake you up, even if you do short practices, and I will give them all to you over this period, okay? So there was this old man named Chu. He was well over 60. I don't know what that makes us, but still. He had done many good things throughout his life, and in the old days, transportation was very difficult. He donated money to have roads made and bridges built so people could get around more easily. People in need could always count on him for a handout. His neighbors had many good things to say about him. One day, he saw a fisherman on his way to the market to sell a carp that he'd caught. This beautiful fish had red markings as bright and warm as a fire in the winter. Its eyes were shiny as stars in the sky. Old Chu thought it would be a shame to eat such a beautiful fish. So he bought the carp for a good price and put it in the pond. He was very good about that. But Chu was an old man, and nobody lives forever. That's in the story. Not long after that, he felt weak, giddy, and despondent. He thought he might not live very much longer. As he was lying homesick, a little servant boy came in and said, "Mr. Chu, my master sent me to invite you to eat with him." Old Chu didn't recognize whose servant boy it was, but he thought getting out of bed might do him good. A meal would lift his spirits. So he followed the boy. I must really be sick, he thought, as they made their way. Everything looks hazy and glowing in a golden light. Before long, he found himself standing in front of an ornate palace with carved pillars and painted beams. A sign over the front door read, "The Crystal Palace." Strange, isn't it? That's the name of the dragon's palace, wondered old Chu. In a few moments, out came his host, a most impressive man with thick eyebrows, long eye, and 5 long strands of whiskers. He looked lively and powerful, yet virtuous. After they had chatted a bit, old Chu found that his host was none other than the Dragon King himself. Together they enjoyed a rich feast of old delicacies of the mountain and sea. The dragon told old Chu, "One of my sons was out playing around the other day and was kidnapped by a bandit who was going to murder him. Fortunately, you were there to save him. For this, we are most grateful. Actually, your time on this earth is just about up. Because you have rescued a dragon in the guise of a fish, you've earned the right to live longer. I've prepared this simple repast to express my gratitude and explain this to you." "I hardly dare accept your generosity," old Chu humbly replied. "From now on, I will do even more good deeds to show my deep gratitude." After their feast, old Chu woke up in bed with a full stomach. "It must have been a dream," he told himself. "But why am I so full?" He did many more deeds and died peacefully many years later without any suffering at the age of 120. Okay. Now, this story, I love this story. I always pick it up somewhere or another in my life. I love that story because it tells you everything about the dream world and about what it is. And often when you go to the clear light dreams, those are the kinds of things that start happening to you. And when you're at the clear light of dreams, it's very, very interesting because then you begin to see exactly what is happening in the world and what is happening in your life, in your dream life. And nothing is impossible. You really can wake up. Many of these masters wake up with objects in their hands. Good morning, Av. I'm pleased you're there. So a quote by Namkai Norbu in Dream Yoga and the Practice of Natural Light. He says, "In a real sense, all the visions that we see in our lifetime are like the images of a dream. If we examine them well, the big dream of life and the smaller dreams of the night are not very different. If we truly see the essential nature of both, we will find there's really no difference between them. If we can finally liberate ourselves from the chains of emotions, attachment, and ego by this realization, we have the possibility of ultimately becoming enlightened." Now, it's such an interesting thing because I really, really, really was this weekend. I thought I must look up, because I told you I threw all my dozens of dream journals away. They were thick. But when I go on retreat, then I keep little dream journals. I've got now 3 of them, not a lot, because only when I'm on retreat. So I always keep my little dream journals when I'm on retreat. So yesterday I thought, I really must look at my dreams on retreat. And you know what? It was such a fascinating thing, because I keep a proper record of all my insights on retreat and all my dreams. Then when I read them again some years later, I'm absolutely astounded, because I've forgotten about that. And certainly at home, I do not have dreams like when I'm at Taisitu's mandala, and it's all in his mandala, and I don't have dreams like that at home. But when I'm having my dreams in retreat, beings come and visit me almost every night. It's the most amazing thing. Sometimes I'm afraid, sometimes I'm not afraid. It depends who it is. Like the one day when I was looking in my journal, in the one journal, I remembered these 2 tall beings coming in. And at first I was quite afraid to see these beings in my room, because when they're in your room, you know, it's not like when you're dreaming and you're far away. My dreams are totally lucid in the room. And then I realized that the one was tall enough to be Dokiensi Rinpoche. You know, I know that he was very tall, and it was him in his young state. And I said, you know, what do you want? Because they were standing over my bed, which is such a stupid thing to say. When you've got beautiful beings in your room, you should just bow. But I have many, many dreams. And one of the things I noted in my dream thing is that all these strange women come to visit me in my dreams in retreat. And only later did I realize that a lot of them, who are just dressed up as old women, beggars, all kind of thing, are the dakinis coming to give me things. So I made a pact with myself that I would always acknowledge these women that came, even if I was irritated, they're interrupting my sleep state and everything. And then I put one thing to just show you how it was. Here it is. It was in August of 2013. So I was reading all my dreams, and they're all very neatly written. So one day, if anybody wants these diaries, you're welcome to them. You'll find very interesting things in them. But I was praying for a permit, because I was in the Karmapa's monastery, having been kicked out. And this dream happened to me, and I didn't like the noisy place I was in, which is a stupid thing to do, because the Karmapa was opposite from me, and he could intervene in anything that I was doing. So I was stupid. I needed to be there for 6 or 7 weeks and so it was beautiful. So this is what I dreamt. I was very irritated. I dreamt this woman, quite plump, and she was carrying a container, came to me. And I remembered not to be polite, because I've been quite impolite to some of them, and I remembered that in my dream. Okay. And not to refuse what she offered, as happened in other dreams with human women offering me something. She was making out not so interested in me, but when I welcomed her without talking much, she built a mandala made of substance that had to be built piece by piece. In my lucid dream, my duvet I sit on is square, and she built in around the square. And as she was building it, I knew she was a human dakini, and was so happy she was making a mandala for me to sit in and practice. And at the end, I thanked her profusely, and she said, it had taken me so long to recognize that they, the dakinis, had answered my call, and I had just not recognized. And she soon left. Now, Rotia was determined to remember, as all the visits were from dakinis in human form, one level of them, preparing me. And the whole phase of retreat must now change. And I'm sitting in her mandala in the dreams. So Gail, when you ask me why I'm enamored with the Dragon King dream, it's because eventually when I'm on retreat, I do not know if I'm in a dream or this life, because I dream every single night of all these beings coming to me, all kinds of things. I've met very great masters. Sometimes they haven't said a word or anything, but I don't know. Did this really happen when I wake up? Did it really happen? Is this happening? And what happens when you're in a retreat of that nature for a long time is you start to not be able to tell the difference between your earthly life and your dream life, because they just continue. And ideally, when I was reading all these entries yesterday, and I've got lots of other dreams to tell you about, but when I was reading these entries, I realized that this is what we have to do, because Tibetan Dream Yoga is about the pure and impure illusory bodies, not only this body, but the body of everything that is around us is illusory. And those are your impure illusory bodies. This is an impure illusory body. Now, when you do Vajrayana practice, you change to a pure illusory body. It's still illusory. If you're doing the medicine Buddha and you are the medicine Buddha and you can be the medicine Buddha, and I laughed the other day because, Annie Lama and I are always in contact with each other. And so these people wrote to me. They said, Melanie, we used to come to your groups, and they said, we really want to volunteer at Sammy Ling, and nobody answers us from there, and we really want to, so we thought we'd ask you if you could help. So of course I take it and I give it to Annie Lama. She gives me the instruction, and I said to her, I'm the resource center, and maybe, because I'm even getting volunteers for Sammy Ling, and then I suggested Holy Hour. But what I realized, I said, I'm waiting for White Tara to bestow the wish-fulfilling wheel on me, and then I can fulfill everybody. So her next text that she wrote to me, she said, good morning, Tara. Okay, good morning, Tara. So, I laughed because I thought, that's what we're doing. If you've been compassionate, I can say, good morning, Chenrezi. Chenrezi's not there. Chenrezi's here. You can say to me, good morning, Tara, like she does, because that's your pure illusory body. And that's why the Vajrayana practice that so many Westerners reject, because they don't understand, why are you doing this? Doesn't mean you love deities. What are you doing it for? They don't realize that when you go into Tibetan Dream Yoga, how important and vital that pure illusory body is. Because when I'm on retreat at Sherabling, at Palpung, I'm a completely different person. That's what I realized when I picked this up and read it. And I'm very happy that I write entries into a diary, because then I remember, then I can look back and see what I was feeling at that particular time that I've completely forgotten about. But the dreams of the night are only a continuation of the dream of the day. And what we're trying to transfer is, what Padmasambhava, and I'll give you that in a moment, left behind, was how to do the practice, especially in your sleep state, of pure and impure illusory bodies. And it all starts in your daily practice when you start meditating and contemplating on the illusory nature of everything. So last week, we were talking about the different Western theorists and all their particular ways they did. And then we came to Stephen LeBurge, who spoke about lucid dreaming. And he said, in essence, dream consciousness, that's your consciousness when you go to sleep, is waking consciousness without physical constraints. Dream consciousness is waking consciousness without physical restraints. Waking consciousness, how you are now, is dream consciousness with physical restraints. Now think about that when you put these together, okay? Because the big difference, as I was trying to tell you last week, the big difference in the motivation of lucid dreaming in the West and the East, both aim for fully conscious, reflective awareness in the dream state, okay? But in the West, it's basically for psychological integration. It's about I, me, myself. It's about your shadow stuff. It's about, it does help us in samsara because your shadow stuff is enormous. I mean, I'm really very alert when I'm working with people to see their shadow nature. Their shadow nature keeps them bound. And you know, James Lowe, I was listening to a beautiful tape of his. He just had prostate cancer. And so he was back in one of his Zoom sessions. And he said, this is what he said, drug addicts, I'm going a bit off the point, but still, this is very important for it. Drug addicts, as soon as they haven't got the drugs in their body, they crave it. He said, so what are they craving for? They're craving for the toxins of the toxins that the drugs and alcohol bring into their body. They're craving it. So the only way they can be satisfied is to put the toxins into their body again. Okay. Now think about that in terms of us. We are in samsara and we crave the toxins. The toxins are our shadow stuff, being ugly to people, being angry, we crave those toxins. And so only when we do those toxins, only when we behave in a toxinous way, are we okay. We're too scared to move in and do a different thing. We're scared. We crave the toxins. So we live by the toxinous things in our everyday life. Isn't that a very interesting concept? It really, really is. And when we haven't got it, we really, really, really crave it. And so in the West, basically to do lucid dreaming, and Gail, there are all sorts of techniques for lucid dreaming, and they're very easily available. You can read up on them as well. But we want to, when we use the samsaric dreams, the psychological based in all the Western theorists, we are wanting to unblock all our shadow stuff, which we face in the dream, because the dream is uninhibited. When we're in our lives, if somebody tells you, you know, you're always doing this, we go, no, I'm not. You're always doing that. You're always doing that. We fight back. But in the dream, we can't fight our own absolute advice about, hang on, you're really quite a toxinous person and you really aren't a very nice person. And we can't fight against that in any way because it's there. But people then just don't remember it in any way or any form. So in the East, the lucidity is to develop awareness of our Buddha nature, our awakened nature, and liberate ourselves and others from this illusory world. So basically, if we don't know this is an illusory world, we're in trouble. Because then, for sure, as soon as things start changing, as soon as we wake up into another dimension and that's gone, we're craving that. Those toxins are what we are craving for. So we just go back. And glory, hallelujah, the wheel of life goes round again and again and again. And about 100 years, lifetimes later, because remember that what we are exposed to now in this age in the age still of Buddha Shakyamuni's eons of his amazing teachings, we will not be exposed to that. When Maitreya comes, he's got one job, and that is to make people lovingly kind to each other. Maitri, that's what his name stands for. He's going to come and give you Maitri and tell you you've got to really do Maitri. And he's not going to come to give Vajrayana practice. He's not going to come and give you all the practices that we all want. So we have to realize, if we don't wake up now, this opportunity, open portal to unity with your true nature, will be gone. It will be gone. And we'll have to wait eons and eons. I just can't tell you how aware I am about if you miss an opportunity. I should do a talk on missed opportunities, because what is so sad is, even if you look at when the Buddha taught, he taught at all different levels, but he only taught the Vajrayana and beyond to very few people. So it wasn't around when he came, because he couldn't, because people wouldn't understand it. And now, in this darkened age, we've got the most unbelievable opportunity, and it'll go. The darker the planet, the darker our natures, the more opportunity for enlightenment. Isn't that an amazing thing? So let's go on to some of the Tibetan dream teaching, but let me open if anybody wants to say anything. I've said too much already. Anyone want to say anything, please, or even ask about a dream or anything that you want? Anything at all. Carol, are you Carol? Do I know you? Which Carol?
Melanie, I did meet you once many years ago in Australia.
Okay, now I'm looking at Carol and thinking, no, I don't know Carol lately, but that's lovely to have you.
Thank you.
I don't know where you are in the world or what you're doing, but the thing is that all the stuff is on YouTube, even lots of beginner stuff and all of that. So if you need any answers to stuff I'm saying, please ask, okay?
I'm good friends with Bern, and she...
Carol, okay, great. No, she'll help you if you're good friends with her. You're in a good place. Okay, we all are good friends with her. She's a good organizer. Okay, so anyone want to ask anything? Anyone want to say anything? Anyone want to dream? Anyone want anything? Because I'm moving on. Come on, this is your chance if you want. Anyone?
So, sorry, this is totally not what you're teaching, but it's something I keep on meaning to ask. You've often said that Vajrayana practice will become unavailable to us in the next era.
Yeah, it will.
Will the information be gone? Will nobody be able to
access
it to it?
No, they will be able to access it, but only with real change within yourself, which is so interesting. Because, and I'll tell you why. When the time on the earth plane comes to when teachings are not allowed to be available openly again, okay, what happens is the dakinis and the Dharma protectors take the teaching to another dimension, to another realm. So if you are able to access that realm, you could go and get the teaching, like I'm telling you about my dreams on retreat and everything. It's really important. But you know what? It's such an important thing, because when you look at it and you ask the question, why is it that in this age, I mean, you've got to listen to Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche on this. He says, we don't even know how lucky we are. He said Vajrayana teachings, when he was brought up, over other incarnations, were very secret. They could only be given from master to disciple. That's all. They were very direct in the lineage. And he says now they're open. And he says he understands that they are open, but we've got to be careful, because when these teachings are open, it means people could abuse them. And he says it's really important, that people understand. But sometimes, Gail, when I think of what is available to us in this age, on YouTube, on with these great masters, their teaching, their books, their studies, disciples, close disciples writing things, I can never get over how lucky we are. It's the most amazing. I know you listen to a lot, but think of how lucky you are. When I started on the Buddhist path, these things weren't available like that. And now they are absolutely, if you go onto Amazon, you get 5,000 Dzogchen books and, hundreds of different books and hundreds of different books and everything you get. And it's really, really, it's really amazing what is available to us. And we really need to use that very, very much. So let's look at the Tibetan Dream teaching, okay? You can only learn Tibetan Dream Yoga on retreat with a qualified Lama, okay? And I was authorized by Lama Yeshe Rinpoche to prepare people for this practice, but not give the practice. Although once I did ask him, one of the retreats I was on, can I use the practice you taught me? And he said, yes, you can. But you can't give the depth of it, because it's actually, this is one of the things that was a secret practice. But certainly you can use a lot of techniques to change your whole sleep state and dream state. And Lama Yeshe gave me the initiation to practice, and I do that each night. But this is nothing compared to people who practice on a long retreat under the guidance of a properly qualified Lama. And when I was doing all my dream stuff, I had Taisitu Rinpoche that I saw quite a lot, but I definitely didn't have a Lama supervising me all the time. And Lama Yeshe Rinpoche has done 3 dark retreats. Okay, so that's 7 weeks in total utter darkness. 3 times he's done it, where you've got no light whatsoever. And in that, he's just accessed the clear light body, which is what we're trying to do with all of this, okay? And that Naropa was the one who gave the Tibetan Dream Yoga, but it was a secret practice that needed to be passed from master to disciple. And it's possible to attain full liberation through this practice. And for me, it's a much easier practice than, say, sitting in meditation. I've realized that a lot of people don't like sitting in shamatha meditation, and I think that for me, I find that I need a more active practice. And I think that dream yoga is really, really an active practice. Now, if we look at the where this all came from, it's very fascinating, because Padmasambhava Guru Rinpoche dictated a very profound text. Now, a lot of you have got this text, and the full title of it is The Profound Dharma of the Natural Liberation Through Contemplating the Peaceful and Wrathful Deities. Okay, so you probably see it, that's the full title, you probably see it as called Guru Padmasambhava Natural Liberation. That text you really should all have if you're interested in this subject matter, because he gives you all the things in each level and in all the 6 bardos, because part of it is called the stage of complete instructions on the 6 bardos, which I'll tell you now. And it was sealed as a terma. I think all of you or most of you know that a terma is when he dictated it to a disciple, they had full recall of it, and then they put it into an ocean, into a sea, into a rock, into whatever. And when the time is right, that person, Akon Rinpoche was one, goes straight to the place, opens it, takes it out, and the fresh, profound teaching is there, ripe and ready for that age. So he did this. and it was discovered again, he did in the 8th century, and only discovered again in the 14th century. Okay, so it was discovered in the 14th century. And basically, the text teaches us to liberate our minds and reveal our mind's true nature. It provides practical meditation instructions on the 6 bardos. So what's a bardo? We all know this teaching. I'm just giving you a very, very brief thing. A bardo is called an interval of possibility. Okay, an interval of possibility, a gap between 2 events. Each of the 6 bardos has different conditions, different potentials, and different limitations. And we're learning this because of understanding the dream stuff. So there are 3 of life, 3 bardos of life, and 3 bardos of death. We're not going to do the death ones now. It's long. We're just going to look at. There's the bardo between birth and death. That's the bardo called Kieni. That's your whole life. Your whole life is just an illusory, impure illusory body until you find a pure illusory body and until you liberate yourself. That's the bardo of birth and death. Then the second one is the bardo of dreams called Milam. Now, the bardo of dreams, which Padmasambhava gave, very explicit instructions. I'm sure Karen's got this on have you got it, Karen, on email? I mean, if you got this text on email, Karen, ask her, she'll give it to you if you want to read it on your computer. She's got all of these, I'm sure. Okay, but the bardo of dreams.
Now I've got that.
Okay, so if you want that, you need to write. Just put your email address again, Karen, or something that they can get to you. And then if they want it, they can get you. It's a very important book. I always go back to it all the time because it's really important. And the third, so the bardo of dreams is where your consciousness is completely different to your wakeful consciousness. Then you've got the third one, the bardo of meditation. Also a looser consciousness than your tight consciousness you have between birth and death. But actually the other 2, dreams and meditation, are part of the birth and death bardo. And then 3 in the afterlife, we're not going to talk about them, the dying, the bardo of Dhammata, and the bardo of becoming. We'll look at them when we have to, apply them. But our consciousness in each bardo is held together by all the elements. So to leave a bardo, when you want to leave it, so if you're in the dream state and you want to leave the dream state and come into this state, the elements that sustain that level of consciousness dissolve. And then a new configuration arises. So you know what it's like when we go to sleep, and we really, and we really going to sleep. Then we have this whole dream state. I mean, last night I was dreaming the whole night, and I can't even be bothered to draw the content because most of my dreams don't even have content that you can put into language anymore. So I just acknowledge them and then wake up from them. But when you wake up, when we go to sleep, and especially when we die, this is what happens. As sleep approaches, the world we know recedes. You know how you worried about something, you're really thinking about something when you go to sleep, and then the world you know just recedes as you go into the sleep state, okay? And a new consciousness is born. In the dream bardo, it's a less dense configuration. So if you are able to lucidly dream and openly concentrate your dream, the new consciousness is much less dense. So when entering the dream, time and space operates differently. So the dream lacks the solidity we fall into during life. So when we wake up, we say, oh, I had this strange dream. Then I was there, then I was there, then I was there. I can't explain it to you. I don't know how I got there, but suddenly I was there. And that's your consciousness much less dense than in your daily life. And when we enter any bardo, including the dream bardo, we think, oh, this is reality. When you're in a dream, for sure, if you're having a nightmare, you're going to wake yourself up because you really think this is reality. Okay, but this belief is a trap. It traps us and makes us subject to the conditions of that bardo. So even in your life, if you're going through a real struggle, if you're going through a real hard time, do not get trapped into that. No, this is illusory. It's just a temporary drama. It's going to pass. This is all going to end. And we need to see the bardo as a transition if we want to attain enlightenment and free ourselves from samsara. Even if you've got a sick child or you've got a sick parent or you lose your parents or whatever you do, it's really important to understand that it's an illusory state, okay? And awareness, just take the word awareness out and put the other word knowing in, knowing. Okay, because the word knowing is easier for us to understand. Knowing is the key training for living, dreaming and sleep and dying. Training your mind to be aware, Gail. Training it to be aware. Allowing it to become aware. Attaining lucid dreaming, we then have all the content of dreams. I'm going to talk about the 3 levels of dreams. But eventually, the content is no longer important and you move into the clear light. Now, how do you apply that to your daily life? Eventually, the content of your daily life is not extremely important, even when it is lousy. Okay, you just know, this situation that I'm in is really amazing for me. This is my waking up situation. This dream that I went into, it was a wonderful feeling. I remember I used to go into Pure Lands. I used to go, but long before I came into Buddhism, I used to, when people died, they used to come to me in a dream very, very, very often. It's getting hot as I thought. People used to come to me very, very often in the dream state. And they used to tell me things. But then when people came to me and said, Melanie, have you seen my mother? I said, I can't determine that. I don't go to bed and say, please, can I see so-and-so? Sometimes I say, please, can I see if they're okay? But they don't always come. It's their own will. But I was always able to go into the hell realms. I was always able to go into realm. Was something obviously that I learned to do in previous lives. So I think that you can train yourselves, and once you are in control of your mind, however far you get, you start to recognize this is another dimension. Now I'm in the dream state. And as Charlie Morley teaches in his lucid dreaming, you look for the dream signs. Number 1, if you're flying. Now, I fly often in dreams. If you're flying, you say, I'm flying, and I know I'm in a dream. Okay? I mean, the Buddha could fly even in this state, but we can't fly yet in this state. As someone, I think Chogyam Trungpa once said, if you try and go on the mountain and fly, you're probably going to die. Okay, but the thing is, the Buddha could fly in this body as well. Why? Not because his attainment was that this is just an illusory body. It's just an impure illusory body. As soon as you change everything that you believe, you will definitely attain lucid dreaming and you'll get far. And in death, if we haven't trained our minds, we will not recognize the truth. We will not attain liberation. So we'll go on and on and on. So what is the bottom line? Living in conscious awareness in our daily lives. Now, just thinking about that, living in conscious awareness. I mean, I read in the paper this morning that our dear friend Jacob Zuma, has in with all his Zulu nations, I mean, he's supposed to be in jail. He's the father of state capture. And look how he creates himself. He gets up there. He actually had the nerve to say, we are going to change the constitution and get a new African constitution. Nicola, he's going to get an African constitution. He says, if you don't vote for a black person, you'll never be able to get this African constitution. I mean, you know, he is the epitome of everything. He sold the country. He developed state capture. He zoomed his way out of jail and everything. And now he's actually teaching all of this to people. And why I'm telling you about this is that people are enamored with it, just as they're enamored with the lies other leaders tell. Why? They're enamored with the lies because they want to believe an unreality that makes them somehow feel better. They're addicted to the toxins. That's what I was saying in the beginning. And you just watch all these people cheering him. Everyone's forgotten that he's supposed to be in jail. Everyone's forgotten what he did. And he's now at 82, this big hero. You just got to look at it. So that's what we call constant unawareness. Looking for a leader that will look into Trump, who's going here and there and everywhere with all his things, just looking to him, he's going to sort out all my problems. Isn't that what's happened, Boo? You've taken us off, eh? Okay. I don't know what you did, don't worry. But so if you live in conscious awareness in your daily lives, it leads to conscious, aware, lucid dreaming and sleep, where we can use our sleep states to become enlightened. The only real purpose of training in dreams, even clearing your psychology, is to become enlightened. And then you can die in mindful consciousness, liberating your minds. And the converse is living in ignorance, leads to sleeping in ignorance, leads to dying in ignorance and entering suffering again. Ignorance means ignoring the truth. How long? How long are we going to do this for? You're smiling, Bird. So the sleep state is actually like a rehearsal for dying, and we must do it consciously. Did you know that when you go to sleep, I'm going to give you all the neuroscience things, that all the elements dissolve just like they do when you die? And if you can go to sleep consciously, you will realize them, and then the body reforms into different elements in a different state, a different level of consciousness. Then when you're lucid, it can take itself off from your physical body and you can go wherever you need to go. And that's very important. And then when you die, everything dies. Not fully, you don't fully die when you go to sleep because you come back. But then you regroup again, the elements regroup again, or you free yourself completely. So the dream teachings provide us with so many methods to improve the quality of life, but always their ultimate use leads us to liberation. So the first question you have to ask yourself, which is really important, is, am I controlled by my interactions with the object of experience, or do I control my reactions to them? One of the most important questions. Am I controlled by my interactions with object of experience, or do I control my reaction? In other words, if something bad happens to you, you go to pieces. It just takes over you. Someone's rude to you, you can't think of anything for the whole day. Can you control your reaction? Second question, can I remain in steady presence in diverse situations, in emotional reactions to attractions and aversions? Once we can develop stability of awareness, dreams will change in extraordinary ways, as I'm telling you. Now, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, Nicola's friend, says, Many Westerns, in his book, which is also a lovely book to read, The Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, he said, many Westerners who approach the teaching do so with ideas about dreams based in psychological theory. Subsequently, when they become more interested in using these dreams in their spiritual life, they usually focus on the content and meaning of the dream itself. Rarely is the nature of dreaming investigated itself. When it is, the investigation leads to the mysterious processes that underlie the whole of our existence, not only our dreaming life. So yes, very helpful to know when your shadow angry side comes up, when your imprints come up in your dreams. Very good. You acknowledge them and you look at them and you see what you're being shown. But eventually, you want to investigate the real nature of dreaming. And the nature of dreaming is that you've gone to sleep and you've regrouped in a different, less physical structure. And you need to be aware of that, because once you are lucid in the dream, you can go wherever you want. I mean, I found some of the most beautiful dreams when I went to visit Guru Rinpoche when I was on retreat. And trust me, I don't get those dreams when I'm at home, but they're very beautiful dreams. And I would wake up in the morning absolutely inspired by it. Any questions, any points? You're all very quiet, and I'm happy. And Gail, you can ask as many questions as you want, because you represent them all with your question. And it's not only you, it's everybody. Anyone want to say anything, or you all understand perfectly? Everyone understand?
We're trying to understand perfectly. We're processing.
Now, I'm happy if you're processing. I just told you that if you look in my book here, I've got a thick wad of lectures like that on dream stuff over all the years. Some of them I threw away. But you know what? I've got so many things to actually teach you about. And you must tell me if you're not grasping it. You must say, don't know what you're talking about, don't understand. Patricia, I liked what you said the other day when I was teaching on the primordial content. You said, I get it. I love it when people text me. About 4 people texted me last week and said on the Tuesday night group, I get what you're saying. That's so important to me. I don't want you to come and sit here and listen, and it's very interesting, very nice, and nothing changes in your life. I want these talks to change you drastically. The only way you really can is with interaction. I want it to be a monosyllabic thing. So you're welcome to butt in, even you, Carol, anything you want to know or talk or say, with pleasure. Avril, you've always got a lot to say. Ego, you've got a lot to say. I'd love it if you put your cameras on so I can at least see if you're digesting this.
I wanted, sorry to chirp, but I'm always chirping.
Good.
You know, a lot of times dreams are very kind of symbolic. And if I'm being honest, I don't always understand the symbolism.
Yeah, I know.
So, you know, because I have these very, very kind of weird dreams, and I'm on spaceships, and it's really can be very scary, and it feels very real and all the rest of it. And it's not because I've been watching TV about a spaceship. It's just sort of random stuff. And why would I have dreams like that? What's it trying to say?
You see, for me, what's really important, and I mean, I used to work with people in dream groups, and then we really looked at the content. I think it's very important, because I think that sometimes only you can know the meaning of what the spaceships mean to you. But for me, I think your dreams on the spaceships are that you're being shown that you can go beyond what is possible for you here. And you are really, really into this, into understanding awareness and trying to get enlightened and everything. I think those are amazing dreams, because I think it's fine for me if you say, hey, before you go to sleep, I'd like one of those spaceships and I'd like to go to the copper-colored mountain, please. I mean, that's the whole thing about dreams, hello man, to use it creatively and to shift shape, as Suraya Das used to say. Use it like a mold that you can actually do. I just want to give you, like, for example, just let me see if I can find those. Yeah, here they are. It's easy for me. I saw they were sticking out. Like, one of the people in one of my groups had this, he said, oh, Melanie, I had this very mundane dream. Okay, tell us your dream this week. He said, I'm going on a picnic with some people, and my mother has packed the picnic basket. When I opened the basket, I found there are 10 boxes of different cereals, and that's it. Okay, that's in his picnic box. So I asked this guy, I said to him, you know, tell me something. So your mother only gave you the bare essentials, no mother's milk to stir the porridge or put, no mother's milk. It was just cereal. I mean, to eat cereal boxes for your picnic could be absolutely awful. And what we realized was that all the things he'd taken from his life were very dry. They were good. They were nutritious. The porridge was nutritious, but very dry with nothing else. That was the story of his life. He was too scared to create. He was too scared to embroider a little bit and have a little bit of excitement and add. His psychology gave him exactly like this, and that was that. And so he has to go beyond the bare essentials. And the other person in that same group said like this, I go back to my family of origin and I come to this lush vegetable garden, and in particular the carrot patch, which has these magnificent, lush, bright green tops. And I look at this and I show these green tops to everybody. And then I dare to pull one of these green tops out. And as I pull it out, there is this thin, tiny, emaciated carrot, that big, with these big green, leaves that are on top of it. He says, and he has to look at, what does this mean in your family of origin? Because he tells me he's dreaming in the family of origin. So when we worked with it, he realized that his family is on the surface. His family made everything really lush and divine. But when you went beneath the surface, was these thin, emaciated little carrots that were under this lush thing. And so we had to work with the issues in his family of origin, where clearly his family pretended, but the actual deep content was not so clear. Now, those are very important dreams, because once you can get to that in your family of origin, you are really ready to move on, to take your place and change those carrots and make it true for you, not just a pretense. Families go, everything looks so gorgeous in that family, but underneath it's awful. So those dreams are really very important to help you to negotiate this life. But when you come to the Tibetan Dream Yoga and the whole Eastern way of looking at dreams, the content is nothing. Because the most important thing is that we are able to accept the circumstances of our lives. We're able to accept them, that these are absolutely the right circumstances of our lives. And if we can accept them, then we'll stop being stuck in them, move on and develop that awareness, and really be able to do things with your life. Do you all understand that I'm saying? It's really important, because, a lot of you a lot of you have had really difficult childhoods and really limited childhoods and things like that. Some of you have had very, very nice childhood, but some of you have had good childhoods, physically and really very little emotionally. Now that's very important. But when you look deeply at that, when you look deeply at those dreams, those are your imprints that created you coming into that family. Therefore, those imprints have got to be worked through. And how do you work through them? You take the symbols in your dreams and you really examine them. And when you examine the symbols in your dreams, you realize, I don't want, what I'm doing is I'm following the script of my family and I'm presenting everything as lush, when underneath I don't feel it's lush at all. I feel there's no substance. So maybe if I can start telling the truth, and maybe when people start saying to me, oh, I heard you could do this, and I can say, no, it's actually a bit fraudulent. I can't really do that. I just pretend I can, and I know the things. When you start understanding that, when you start accepting that, when you start accepting the circumstances of your life as the right circumstances you need, no matter how hard they are, then you're through this temporary illusory drama. Right, Bern, you're nodding your head.
Right. I've had a question. Can I put a question through? For me, but what does it mean when you have recurring dreams about a dead person?
Like, it's very important that, because if you have recurring dreams about a dead person, try and use a Gestalt method of that and ask yourself, what does this dead person represent? Usually I would always say to people, give me maximum 2 adjectives about that person. Maximum 2 adjectives. So can you give me an adjective about the person? Quick, not a long description and not a long thing, just an adjective. Sorry?
Courage.
Courage, okay. Then if you're dreaming about courage, what that dream is showing you, it's not necessarily about the deceased person, because when you dream about deceased people, you've got to really be careful, because I haven't gotten very far today and I still want to do meditation, but I don't think I'm ever going to get where I want to go. But anyway, if you look at it, we go from the samsaric dreams to the dreams of clarity to the clear light dreams. And when you go to the dreams of clarity, those are the dreams where you have a meeting with someone who died, and you can tell the difference than just a recurring dream that somebody died or about a deceased person. Because usually the recurring dream is not a dream of clarity. It's usually about the fact that there's an adjective of you, maybe courage, and you can only see it, you see it in this person, and now you've got to say, hang on a moment, I need to bring this quality into my life. I need to face things with a lot of courage and a lot of openness and a lot of acceptance. That's for me what it means if the person represented courage. So very often just looking at an adjective of what that represents, you can really understand many, many, many things about yourself, but not stick there. Not stick there. That's the point. Work it, go through it, look at your shadow side. This is the side of me, maybe that's always careful. Maybe this is the side of me, if I'm looking at you, Bern, maybe this is the side of me who always likes things to be anally in control, because then I feel safe. Maybe I need to have more courage to actually just let things unfold as they are. And that's what I think you're doing now, right? Isn't that true?
It's not actually, this wasn't from me, it's from somebody else. And
the person is there, then that's fine. I mean, you've got to tell me the person so that I can see it. Not that you don't need to reveal the person, but I'm just saying, for me, if courage is what the deceased person is representing in your dream, then you need to take more courage to face the truth of yourself.
Courage? If it's not courage,
Then you look at the adjective again. You look at
Got
it again. You see what that person represented to you. You've got to see what that person, I can't tell you what that person represents. It's only your interpretation of what that person represents. Okay?
yeah.
So look at that and let them work with that. But let's just look quickly at neuroscience, and then we'll go straight onto a meditation, starting with a little bit of the Tibetan Buddhism. Okay. In neuroscience, there are methods of measuring the changes in the brain waves as we enter sleep and dream. And they found that we fall asleep in 4 stages, okay, becoming increasingly deeper in consciousness. So stage 1 is the drowsiness and fragmentary hypnagogic images arise. Now, I'll give you an example of this. The other day, I was absolutely exhausted. And so it was the afternoon. I was going to quickly have a sleep, and then I was going to start working again. So I had a sleep, and we had all these workers in our house. So as I'm falling asleep, they all come right below my window, and they're talking full blast. Now, what was happening with me at the time was, even though it was a day's sleep, I was going through those hypnagogic images. They're images where you're not stopping at them. You're not stopping at those images, but you're going through those images, hopefully with awareness. So I went through the hypnagogic, then they made a noise, I woke up again. Then I was so tired, I lay down, I went through the hypnagogic, and then they woke me again. It happened 3 times. But what was lovely about having that experience for you is that the hypnagogic images are very, very important. So when you go to sleep, allow those hypnagogic images to take you. Watch them. Don't stop at them, but just watch them as your consciousness is going through those hypnagogic images. That's called stage 1. Be aware as you're drowsy and you're entering them. Stage 2, the images tend to be mental rather than visual in the background. So as you're going through the hypnosis, in stage 2, thoughts are coming up, the mental thoughts are coming up, and you're just aware of them. You're not holding on to any. If you hold on to any, then you wake yourself up. You don't want to wake yourself up. You just want to be aware, the mental images, because if you prepare yourself before sleep, the mental images will definitely be of the things you've prepared yourself. If you haven't, and you've gone straight to sleep after watching a hectic television show, those are the images that will come before you in the mental images. Stage 3, you're now becoming to get more unconscious, okay? And then stage 4 is the fully unconscious deep sleep, and it lasts about an hour, okay? Now, it's interesting here in this stage 4 to compare the alaya or substrate consciousness of our ordinary consciousness with the dharmakaya, the consciousness that is fully aware. Because in neuroscience, stage 4 is when you fall into a deep unconscious sleep. And then from that unconscious sleep, you drift into REM sleep, rapid eye movement, which is where we have proper dream time. And then after some time in REM sleep, we drift down to stage 3, then back to REM, in and out about 4 or 5 times. And then that difference becomes much shallower as dawn approaches. And during your REM sleep, the cerebral activity, the blood pressure, your heart rate are all more active than even in wakefulness. And our dreams are vivid in REM sleep and usually have a story. REM is closest to waking time, so dreaming is very closest to waking consciousness. Let me just give you this, and then we'll do a meditation. In Vajrayana, which is deity practice, which, as I've told you, many Westerners think it's about some supernatural event, and I'm not going to become a deity. They miss the point completely, because the Vajrayana practice is where you do your creation, your mantra recitation, and your dissolution. So in Vajrayana or Tantric Buddhism, which are the advanced Buddhist teachings, the 4 stages of sleep that are outlined by neuroscience that I've given you are agreed upon, except that the person trained in Vajrayana meditation can recognize a strict order in these 4 states of falling asleep and knows that these 4 states represent the dissolution into one and another of the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, air, analogous to the Bardo of dying. In sleep, it doesn't happen quite so much like in death. It's a much more subtle manner, but sleep is the rehearsal for death. And dissolution corresponds to the level of subtleties of consciousness. And the major difference between Vajrayana, Tibetan Buddhism, and neuroscience is that stage 4, where in neuroscience you go into a deep unconscious sleep, in Vajrayana, that's the most important stage in the sleep cycle, because it's called the clear light of sleep. Because instead of dissolving into the alaya or substrate consciousness, where you are totally out of it, there's nothing happening, you are going into the Dharmakaya because your elements have dissolved, and there you are going into the clear light of sleep, which is really important. It's the state closest we get to the enlightened mind, and the veils obscuring the enlightened nature are thinnest here. And Vajrayana training focuses on developing the power to enter this state consciously. The clear light of sleep is not as deep as the clear light of death. And the Dalai Lama says that with the 4 stages, they said to repeat in reverse order when we awaken from the dream state. So what happens is we go through the stages, and if we are preparing, when it goes to the deep stages, you're totally conscious and totally awake, but you're not awake physically. So your body can still rest and sleep, but your mind is completely awakened. And that's very important, called the clear light. And then when you go up to REM sleep, down to stage 3, up to REM sleep, down to stage 2, up to REM sleep, up to stage 1. Much lighter as you go through the morning, okay, and into the early morning. And in the clear light of sleep, the grosser forms of energy dissolve, but not the subtle forms like in death. But without training, we do not recognize this clear light of sleep or death. However, our dream state is less dense than our waking consciousness, as one of the sheaths obscuring our late enlightened state dissolves. And so if we can start recognizing our dreams, we have the potential for becoming enlightened. Okay, and then it just goes on to the special dream body that the Dalai Lama talks about, but it's too much for you for today. But just remember that when you are conscious in your sleep state, your mind and the vital energy or the prana join together, and you actually make a special dream body. And that dream body can go wherever it wants. But in lucid dreaming, when Stephen LaBerge writes about it, people go all over, and some people go and look out for other people and their secrets and all of that kind of thing. We don't do that in Buddhism. We really don't. We just absolutely want to be aware. And I know the first time I went into my dream body, which is made of the energy and the prana, I was actually on the roof and looking at my physical body. So I watched my physical body. Then I taught myself how to, I had my physical body, and then I thought, now what do I do? And I said, well, now I need to go out of the ceiling, out of the room, because I'm confined in the room. And then I thought, no, I'll bump my head, because that's your conditioning. Then what I used to do was, I used to train myself to go through the ceiling, but I used to take a deep breath, because it's the dream body, still got a little bit of your own physical nature. Then I used to say, come on, you can do it. You're in a dream body, you're out of your body, you can go through the ceiling. And then I'd go 1, 2, 3, zoop, out the roof, because the roof isn't substantial. You just think it is, so you're stuck. So then that's how I taught myself to fly. And sometimes I used to fly over very high terrain, and then I used to get very, very scared and think, no, I must go much lower than this. I don't want to be here. I had all these experiences. Now I have no desire to do them in any way or any form. Done it, got the t-shirt, and I don't want to. I'll bring Charlie Morley to teach you lucid dreaming, But I think it really is helpful. So I think on that, we're going to just do a little meditation. I'm sorry, because I wasn't intending doing so long on all of that. I was just going to run through all of this. And then next week, we're not going to be here. The week after, I'm not going to be here. But what I'll do when I come back is I'll just take you on a quick summary through and then into the Tibetan Dream Yoga techniques. Is that okay with everybody? Just nod your heads if that's okay. Sorry, because I would like to have gone on, not stopped. Betsy, you're getting a lot. You've done all that, hey, in your sleep state. Good. If you've done it, then it's really much easier to understand. So let's just start with the first practice of Tibetan Dream Yoga. And I'll give you one just also when you actually, I'll give you one when you actually go, when you're going to sleep at night. But just let's do one now, okay? So breathe in and breathe out and come to this very moment in time. And you've got your day practice for the night, which is really important. So we're doing reality testing. How dreamlike, unreal, transitory the nature of reality. We recognize the illusionary nature of everything. Reflect on the illusionary body. The illusory body is insubstantial. We are not our bodies. It's changing all the time. Are you the same as when you were a baby? The same child? Are you like your old grandmother? Just watch how everything changes and just reflect on the illusory body, which is everything, not only your physical body, but everything. Then reflect on your illusory mind and personality, all transient. Can't find it anywhere. Who is experiencing your experiences? What is feeling? Who am I? Look at the dreamlike nature of the body and the mind, and slowly we start to unveil our true identity. Then reflect on the illusory state of the world and phenomena. Notice how the seasons change, how day changes to night, how the stars come up and then they leave. Everything transient. Contemplate the unreal changing the nature of everything to free ourselves from grasping onto everything. It's all going to change. It's all impermanent. And reflect on the illusion of time and space. Time is relative and subjective. Sometimes a moment when you're in pain seems like an eternity. Sometimes hours flit past as though it were one moment. Notice how space is so relative. Sometimes we feel claustrophobic. Sometimes we feel expansive. Maybe we are meditating in a cupboard, but feel infinitely large like the universe. Nothing concrete in holding on, so we can let go and contact the timeless time beyond linear time. Do time shifting and space shifting for the spiritual process of transformation and awakening. So do this in the day, especially when you're sitting in a doctor's room, or you're walking, or you're doing things. Just contemplate the illusory nature of everything, that this is an impure, illusory body. You're going to go on next time to, what do I feel when I look in the mirror at this body? Am I revolted? Do I praise it? Do I think it's something that never changes? We just look at the whole illusory manner, how dreamlike, unreal, and transient the whole nature of reality is, including your dreams. And then just to do one little practice for the meantime when you go to sleep. So do this contemplation every day. And then when you're going to sleep, I'm going to teach you again the breathing, the breath through the two nostrils and all the breathing in the central column. But I'm not going to do it now. We haven't got time. But I want you to just sit up in your bed before you go to sleep and clear everything from the day. If you've been watching television, then you need to do this for a bit longer. Just breathe in and breathe out, and actually, physically, let go of absolutely all that you clung to in the day. Just let it be. You're watching it in the sky-like mind, and it all comes up. Horrible things, not horrible things, just let them come up, and keep reminding yourself that you are dreaming up your experiences. The anger you feel, the happiness, the fatigue. Look at all your experiences, insubstantial, impermanent, and related to mind's projections. Everything is an illusion, and you are doing it. So when you've done this little practice of shamatha and letting everything be, now you're in a lovely, lovely state where the energy is in the central column, and it's really important. And I will teach you, if those of you who've forgotten how to do your intention, you can ask for protection, you can request what you'd like to work on in your sleep state. I don't do that, but have the strong intention. I'll give you that next time. May I awaken within the dream and grasp the fact that I'm dreaming, so that all dreamlike beings may likewise awaken from the nightmare of illusory suffering and confusion. I do that every night before I go to bed. May I awaken within the dream and grasp the fact that I'm dreaming, so that all dreamlike beings may likewise awaken from the nightmare of illusory suffering and confusion. You just said, but if you don't have that thing, you could just say, may I awaken in the dream, and may I be able to liberate all sentient beings from their dreamlike nature. And then you go to sleep. So men sleep on the right side. Oh, there we are. There's the prayer for you. Men sleep on the right side. Women sleep on the left side to put pressure on the negative energies. Thanks, Bern. And then just begin to experience the transition from waking and to sleeping, and enter complete awareness. And then what I just want you to do as you're going to sleep, and you're lying, women on your right side, men on your left side, so you're blocking the negative energies if you can. Doesn't matter if you can't, just don't worry about it. And imagine in your heart, you can see the picture on Karen's thing of the beautiful rainbow light and the Tibetan in the middle. And I want you to just visualize that in your heart. We'll do this in much more depth and see all the rainbow light going out into samsara from your heart, and see everything dissolving and coming back into that arm. And in that way, you put your head down on the right side for women, left side for women, right side for men, and you go into your sleep state, watching the hypnagogic images, and you're prepared, not hurried, just a few minutes of shamatha, letting be everything in your life, then going into the white hour in your heart, seeing it going out with rainbow light, dissolving everything in samsara and bringing it back into the hour. And you'll surely have clear vision light when you go to sleep. I didn't even get to the type of dreams. I don't know, we're going very, very slowly. Does it matter? Does it matter? Do you know? Okay, great. That's fine. Just do that before you go to sleep and start awakening. And also have a little journal next to your bed so you can write your dreams down when you wake up. No matter, even if you find if you take a cord out of this tied up roll of thing, you'll get your dream, you'll remember. You've just got to, as you wake up, remember. I used to go straight into the bathroom at night, write my dreams down, come back. That's how I trained my mind to remember. Now, you wouldn't get me to do that for all the money in the world, but you want to get yourself used to dreaming, and then you want to get yourself used to the process of dreaming and the process of falling asleep, so that it's a preparation for the death when you die. So I hope that's really helpful to you. And we'll carry on. We'll just carry on. I probably won't remember where I am, so you will just remind me when I come back of what we've done, and then we'll just carry on with that. There's lots. I want to teach you the 3 types of dreams: the samsaric dream, how to work with the karmic traces; the dreams of clarity, how to work with your dreams of clarity; the clear light dreams, when you go beyond all the content and you're not interested in the content anymore. Those are the 3 types of dreams in Tibetan yoga. Very interesting and good. If you haven't got dream journals, then see you go and get one, a lovely little book that you can write in. So let's dedicate, and then I'll stay 5 minutes. I've got to run. My granddaughter's coming from Australia, so I've got to really run. But let's dedicate for all sentient beings who are caught in the delusion of samsara, in the heaviness, in their suffering, in their illusory suffering, in everything. May they all wake up, and any merit that comes from this teaching, may they be able to get. Through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood, and thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamche zipane topne nepe tranam pamshene jegana chi balak topaye sipe sole doa droa shu.